Welcome to Spirit School. I'm your mentor, Danielle Sarank, also known as the Squamish Medium. In this podcast, I share honestly all I have learned about the mediumship and spiritual development journey. My intention is to normalize these conversations, to make way for a more confident, clear, and connected wave of lightworkers, serving the world of spirit with an open and joyful soul. Welcome again to Spirit School. Hello everyone, welcome back to Spirit School. It's been a little while, hasn't it? At this time, it's been 15 days since I recorded my last podcast episode, which may not seem like a long time, but when you've posted pretty consistently every single week up until January of this year, it does feel like some time. And because a lot more people are listening to the podcast now, I definitely do receive emails and direct messages whenever I am missing an episode. So here I am. So I really wanted to share today some personal updates that have gone on, because anytime I share something personal, I definitely get a lot of messages from you guys that you're experiencing something very similar. So typically I consider this podcast to not be so much about me. It's about you guys and kind of talking about things that I've experienced that you are likely experiencing as well on the development and spiritual kind of awakening path. But I feel like this is very important to talk about as well. So we'll just kind of see where this conversation takes us. This might end up being a shorter episode. It's just something to kind of like bridge between I start talking a little bit more about the mediumship development journey. I have a lot to share on that because after I experienced the grief last year, my mediumship completely changed, and I took a pretty big break while I was coping with, grief and loss and trying to get my vibrations up to be able to meet that of spirits in a way that I can serve others. At the capacity I always have. And so it's been quite a journey for me developmentally, switching the way I do my mediumship work. And it's been a beautiful transition. It hasn't been easy. It's been awkward, but that's going to be for a future podcast episode. Again, I typically only talk about the experiences I have and the different things that I'm encountering when I'm on the other side of it. What I wanted to talk about more today was around the concept of spiritual burnout. And I'm only going to call it spiritual burnout because I like that phrase. But really, the burnout that I recently experienced was a very human experience, and it was my fault. It had nothing to do with spirit, had nothing to do with being drained by the world of spirit, nothing like that at all. But I did want to share a little bit of the experience so that, whether this is something you'll encounter in your future or maybe you've encountered in your past, maybe it will help somebody out there, which is why I have this whole podcast. So, as you guys know, especially for my real loyal listeners who've been with me for over 2 years, I only quit my job last January and went full-time last February in my spiritual practice. For the many, many years before that, I was just doing readings at my kitchen table and just a couple days a month. It was very slow and steady path for me in my career. I think a lot of people check out my Instagram and hear my podcast and they think like maybe I got here very quickly where I am, and it's not like I'm so successful by any means, but definitely there are people who hire me to kind of get their spiritual businesses and practices off the ground. And one thing I've always been very transparent about, and one thing I've always talked about from a place of honesty, is that my path is actually almost 8 years in. So it was a very, very slow and steady path for me. And then when I went full time, things went a little bit bananas. My practice really took off in ways that I didn't anticipate. The visions I had for, my Squamish medium practice and how it actually transpired through the year were two totally different things, and in the most beautiful and miraculous way. And so I was very excited to follow every cookie crumb. I had an inspiration for classes. I just launched the classes. Lots of people showed up. It was incredible. When I launched the initiation last year, it was, the 6-week Mediumship Foundations experience. It was one of the most exciting things I've ever done. And I loved it. And I got to see how, for most of these women who were in the program, it really changed their life. And it really put them on a path, on their own path in this work. And I don't think I've ever done anything that I was so proud of than creating that space for those women to really kind of find out who they were and what they're capable of. So I found that holding space for those 22 women, I only accepted 22 people the first time I did it. I took about a month off after. I took the whole month of August off, and I really kind of, even though I still had so much energy, I was like, no, Danielle, just take the month off. Something was calling me to do it. Relax. You've been working so hard these past few months. And I really kind of gave myself that space and grace to rest. And then when I went to go back to work, I launched my membership August 1st, the Initiation Circle. And that was actually for the women in the initiation program who were really keen on keeping the momentum going of everything that they'd learned and all the practice readings and everything they were doing. So I launched the membership August 1st, and that's all I kind of had going on in August. And I was going to close it in September 1st. And I did. And then, of course, I had my loss on September 4th. Now, that loss really changed me fundamentally because I experienced grief for the first time. I had levels of sadness I'd never experienced before. I was an entrepreneur, and of course, entrepreneurs do not get bereavement leave. And I had a whole roster of Metamorphosis one-on-one clients, plus my membership, plus all these other kind of things going on. And I kept having to postpone people because I was just so sad. And, you know, I have enough integrity in this work that I'm only going to show up as my best version of self. So I kind of made do, and I was able to show up for people in a good way. And my family was very patient with me because definitely to show up for my clients meant that I probably wasn't showing up for my family as much as I could have and should have been if I wasn't actually experiencing that grief. But everyone was amazing. All was good. And I had all these plans, and I'm a Virgo, so I'm a planner. And I went to go launch this business course or this business class series, and I signed up a bunch of people, and then it just didn't feel right. I was like, nope, I have to stop this right now because I just can't get my energy there. And so I ended up refunding everyone and letting them know I would probably be doing it in the new year. And I still do plan on doing something with that at some point this year, but I'm just waiting for the inspirations to come around it. And I just kind of took a few months of resting a little bit more other than my initiation circle community and my Metamorphosis one-on-one clients. I was just kind of like resting. And then when I went back to do readings in November and December, everything felt so different for me. I was like, why does everything feel so different? And I'm going to talk about that in a totally different episode, but I kind of want to fast forward to January because I had a big wait list of people who wanted to do the initiation again, and I was going to run it. But this time I recreated the initiation so it wasn't so taxing on my time and energy live. And I created the lessons and the philosophies and the fundamentals of mediumship development into an online, very organized course. So here I was thinking like, okay, you got about 30 videos here. What will take you like 30 days to record this? And I started recording on December 1st and I didn't finish recording until I believe it was February 15th. It took me months to record all these videos. So not only am I recording, editing, uploading, creating all the collateral for this, and you guys know, anyone who's taken a class with me or is aware of my brand, I don't do anything half-ass. It has to be at like a level that I am proud to kind of showcase. That's just how I've always done it. Even when I only had 4 people in a home spirit circle and I would create the collateral, I hired a branding person. I had them create the most beautiful custom stuff like that came out of my business. And I've always been like that. So it's no different. I'm not just going to throw something together and put it out there. But not only was I creating all these things, but I also had my full roster. I had my membership. I had a wait list for readings that I actually ended up just a couple weeks ago closing my wait list because it got to over 400 people and it created a lot of stress for me. And I was like, okay, this is just something else that's kind of lingering over me and it's like pulling at me energetically. And so I was kind of feeling in February and early on in March, really pulled in 100 different directions. And what ended up happening was I started getting all these headaches and I started never feeling rested. And I've had these aura headaches before. I don't know if anyone's ever had aura headaches, but the year before when I quit my job, I was working on this huge conference and I was the lead person on the conference. And one day I thought I was going blind. I talked about this on the podcast last year when I talked about quitting my job, but for 20 minutes, I couldn't see. It was just white. And I told my husband I'm going blind. And it happened for so long that I actually came to terms with the fact that I was going blind. And I was like, okay, I could still be a medium blind. It's actually a really good time to quit my job because if I go blind, I can still do readings. Easy peasy, right? Easy peasy. I could do readings. And then the migraine came. And though I'd experienced migraines before in my pregnancies, my second pregnancy, I actually ended up in ICU because my migraines were so severe. They thought I had spinal meningitis or something like neurological damage. Like the migraines were just so severe. And so have had migraines before, and this one was just unbelievable. And I had to go to my conference still. I was the only lead on it. And so I had to just basically suffer through migraine for 5 days. Away from the family, working like crazy hours and, negotiating all that. And so fast forward to really early March, I started seeing the white spots again. And I remember I closed the initiation program March 4th and we had an incredible experience. I had 46 incredible women take that. I showed up for people every single day with my whole heart. Anyone who has worked with me since December when I started feeling the onset of this burnout can probably attest no one had any idea what was going on, except for the fact I annoyingly kept talking about how busy I was. And I hate that because I never want to glorify busyness. Busyness is not why I quit my job, but I have all these dreams I'm constantly chasing. So I just kept pursuing them. So once I closed the initiation program, we had our closing ceremony and a few of them joined the initiation circle, which I was so happy about. I have over 60 women now in the initiation circle and it lights me up, that membership. Like it just fulfills me to no end. I can't even describe to you how amazing it feels to have this amazing container for these women to just continue to grow and evolve in their abilities. So once the initiation wrapped up, I had my spiritual entrepreneurship masterclass, which was incredible. Oh my gosh, I had like 60 people sign up for that. And I really enjoyed teaching about spiritual entrepreneurship. And it was kind of like getting my feet wet to see where my audience was at when it came to like the business side of the spiritual work, which is one of the passions that I love talking about. It's so funny that I do. But, and then I had the Empowered Podcaster coming up the next week, which was a 3.5-hour masterclass for those wanting to start a podcast. Plus my regular roster of Metamorphosis clients, which is incredible. And so what happened was I started seeing those blind spots again. And I could just feel my blood pressure kind of going up. And I just felt like a lot of pressure. Again, no one's putting pressure on me. It was just feeling very pulled in 100 different directions. Way overcommitting to my life. Plus, of course, I have 2 little kids at home. My house is getting painted. So we've been moving furniture every single night for the past like 6 weeks. It should be wrapped up this week, the painting. And I have, of course, a rescue puppy who needs to be walked multiple times a day. And so I just kind of hit this like wall and this threshold. And I remember my parents luckily live with me. I love them so much. They're probably listening to this. But I kind of put an SOS out to them. I said to them, I am about to hit burnout. I can feel it. I need help. And they were so amazing because they ended up walking my dog for me. They basically made it so that all I could do was like rest for a few days in bed while my kids were at school so that I could try to like recoup and recover. And so I had to make some decisions. I was in this advanced mediumship mentorship with Mavis and I ended up bailing on it. I had to tell her, I said, I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm not well right now. I can't do this right now. I ended up scaling back on a lot of my life. I ended up closing my wait list because that was really kind of weighing on me. I made all these kind of decisions that kind of started to align with how I really wanted to live my life again. I had to kind of reevaluate and force myself to slow down. I also had to make some incredibly drastic lifestyle choices, which was also huge for me. I completely gave up fast food. And here's the big thing is that because I was so busy for so long, I was pretty much living off of fast food. Even though I have a cupboard full of food, I make lunches and breakfast and dinner for my entire family, I wasn't nurturing myself and giving myself the nutrition I need for kind of energy. So I had to make all these drastic changes. I gave up wine. I completely cut this stuff out of my life and had to start working out, but I will say I'm not great at working out. So I experienced this burnout, and then I canceled the Empowered Podcaster class and gave everyone refunds. And then I ended up putting the Empowered Podcaster up on Spirit School in a really professional way, and there it shall live. So anyone who wants to start a podcast, I have the Empowered Podcaster up on Spirit School, myspiritschool.com, and you can purchase the replay. The community is still open, so you still have access to me for live questions. But I kind of had to make all these big changes to be able to kind of like support myself and make sure I can sustain this path. So it's been a really whirlwind year. It's been incredible. It's been a huge blessing, but I definitely kind of hit this wall. And as I'm recording this on March 15th, I'm working this week. I have 6 sessions this week with my Metamorphosis clients, a class, 2 classes in the initiation circle. And then I'm taking 2 weeks off. So I actually planned these 2 weeks off. I actually have my whole year planned, all the vacation time kind of planned out where I'm not booking things in to make sure that I have like all these kind of weeks off. But what is interesting is this real thought. This is why I love sitting in the power, because sitting in the power is a big preservation exercise. It's like for yourself. You're not seeking anything. And so it really kind of reminded me about this balance between serving and preserving. And I've just been in service mode since December. And in December, I got really sick, which should have been my first sign that I was going a little bit too hard. And I signed up for all these mentorships and these classes and these workshops. And oh my God, it just like, it was so much. And I spent all this money, and I'm going to have to bail on everything because I know my capacity and everything I'm capable of. And I had to kind of like scale back. So these are just kind of like a little bit of updates on where I'm at today, because I definitely, got sick in December and January. I definitely hit burnout earlier this month, and it's only been a couple weeks, and I'm still recovering in many ways. But I'm very excited that my schedule moving forward is definitely going to be a lot more chill. I will be running the initiation again, which I'm so excited about. Again, it's my favorite thing I do every year. So I'll be launching that for June 21st. And even looking ahead at that, I've scheduled my life around that time to be much more chill. So I feel like the only reason I call it spiritual burnout is not, again, because spirit's draining me in any way, shape, or form, but I definitely have been full on in service mode. So yeah, that's kind of like the update. And that's kind of why you guys haven't seen my podcast super consistent since January. I think that there's been a few times where it's been like 2 weeks without. I haven't done an interview. That's been also something on my mind. There's so many people I want to interview, and I just need to approach. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's some really cool people out there doing really interesting mediumship work that I want to poach to come on for interviews. And here we are almost 4 months into the year, and I haven't even sent out a single email. That's how draining it's been for me. That's how drained I've been. It's been crazy. It's so interesting. So I've also wanted to pitch me to get on different podcasts, and I haven't even had time to do that. I had my branding coach, Christy Pike of Soulful Branding Co., do a media kit for me so I could poach some of my favorite podcasts saying, hey, what about me as a guest? I've never done that before, and I still haven't had time to send it to a single person. I am excited though that during my 2 weeks off, I do have 2 podcast interviews lined up. One is with a medium down in Australia who just released a book, Sheila. I'm going to have her on the podcast. And then my good friend, Debbie, and I can't say her last name, but she's a great Italian medium on the East Coast. And she is so much fun. And she just actually took a sabbatical from her teaching position, not far off from her retirement, by the way, to finally pursue her mediumship dreams. So I do have 2 podcast interviews kind of lined up and more on the horizon, but I've definitely been having to kind of restructure my practice so that I can fit all this in. And this is another thing that I really wanted to talk about, was around this sense of declaring to spirit what you want to bring into your life. And this is something I taught in the spiritual business course. And this is something that I saw as a story that unfolded since December. Now, as I was kind of coming out of the really deep and raw state of grief in early December, and I started feeling like a little bit more normal, I wasn't crying every single day, though I still do cry all the time over my cat that I lost. I just love him so much. But I told Spirit, I was like, okay, I see things have really changed for me. Like, I have fundamentally changed as a person. My mediumship has completely changed and evolved. The way that I show up for other people has completely changed and evolved. I just felt so different after that experience. And it's quite common that a lot of people discover their spiritual abilities after trauma, whether it was loss or a near-death experience or some sort of like traumatic experience in their human life. So it's not surprising to me looking back that I felt so fundamentally changed after that deep experience with grief. And I whispered my declaration to the world of spirit because I've always still played it a bit safe, because obviously there's a lot of people who want to work with me. I think anyone who does mediumship does see this demand in work for them. And I kind of whispered to the world of spirit in mid-December saying, I think I'm ready for that next level. Like, I feel like I've been here for 10 months. It's gone amazing. And I feel like I'm ready for that next level. And so I whispered that intention, and what happened overnight was my wait list doubled and my podcast listenership over doubled in January. I was blown away because I only released 2 episodes in January, and my downloads went from, anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 a month to 10,000 to 20,000 a month. Unbelievable growth. I was blown away. And I even had an agency reach out to me asking me if I would do my podcast under their brand, which I've decided not to, because I've never intended on monetizing this podcast in any way. I literally started this podcast just to kind of share freely the shit I've gone through when it comes to mediumship development. And it's worked really well for me because so many of you, I get emails and DMs every day saying that something I talk about in this podcast helps you. And that's the reason why I started this podcast. So I've never been interested or keen on monetizing the podcast and running ads or getting sponsors. That's not why I started this. And so when I had this company approach me saying, will you do this podcast weekly under our brand and we'll pay you, blah, blah, blah. It was an easy no for me because that's not why I started this podcast. So the practice really took off. Like, I actually got what I whispered to spirit, that next level. And then it made me actually realize that the capacity of which I'm living my human experience does not meet the vibration of what that next level looks like. So this is where I have to focus on my health and wellness. This is where I have to change my complete lifestyle, the way that I run my practice, the way that I run my wait list, which I'm getting rid of the wait list, the way that I do everything. And I have an assistant, Danielle. Her name is also Danielle. She's amazing. I almost quadrupled her hours every single month. And I got a second assistant, which is my mom, which is so funny to say that, but she helps me out so much in my business. And I'm basically having to hand off everything to someone else so that I can just kind of show up and serve. Because I also feel that that's what was burning me out. It's like I have the podcast, YouTube, newsletter, Instagram. I was wanting to do TikTok, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then also my clients, my sales calls, my applications that come in, responding to everyone, my emails, and all these different things. And I'm going to have to try to hand everything off because that's kind of what this next level inquires. I'm going to have to get my health straight. I'm going to have to eat better. I'm going to have to move my body more. I'm going to have to be more intentional about my sleep time, how I spend my evenings, not working till 11 o'clock at night. Yet, what am I going to do, right? It's been interesting. I just feel like I've been changing so much. There are different aspects of my business I will never hand off. I will never hand off my social media. I actually have a company that's like itching to get their hands on my social media. And I can't do it. It's energy. It's energy to me. I love my Instagram audience. I love them. Sorry if you're on Facebook. I'm not crazy about Facebook. But I love my Instagram people. I love responding to every DM when I can and connecting with people in the comments and curating my posts. So that's something I just don't want to hand off. I'll probably have to hand off my emails. Might have to hand off my podcast editing and my YouTube uploading, like that kind of stuff, but it's still going to be me and my energy behind my business. So all these kind of like shifts are happening. And when shifts like this happen in your life, I'm sure you guys have experienced this, where you just feel like fundamentally changed and you kind of get lost. Like, who am I? What am I talking about? What's happening? That's kind of how I've been feeling in the past couple months. So it's been interesting trying to show up for you guys consistently, because I love this podcast and this platform so much, but I just wanted to be super real with you guys because this podcast is super real, and just kind of give you guys like an update, because I do get messages often saying, hey, it's been 2 weeks since we had a podcast episode. Like, what's happening? And I have over 50 topics I still want to talk about in mediumship on this podcast. So it's not like this like lack of knowledge or this lack of willingness to share. It's just been super preserving of my own energy and being very conscious of how I'm showing up for other people. So that's kind of like the burnout update I just wanted to kind of share with you guys. There's also something else cool that has been happening that I'm so excited to talk about. And if you follow me on Instagram and you've been following my lives the past couple months, you probably have seen a theme come up around angels. Now, this has been, I think I've only had one podcast episode on angels in this whole spirit school journey. And this has been something I've really struggled with, because obviously angels and me have been together our whole life, but I started studying angel studies in 2014, 2015. I actually can't remember what year it was. It was one of those years. It was really, really early in my development. And angels were just not in my awareness before that. I always considered angels to be a Catholic thing, which I am the furthest thing from Catholic, being an Indigenous woman, or somebody who identifies as Indigenous anyways. I'm not full Indigenous, but, I've always kind of identified angels with Catholic faith, and I never considered myself to be Catholic in any way, shape, or form. Of course, they came into my awareness, and the teacher appeared, Kyle Gray. And I felt like I was very aware of Doreen. I was very aware of Radley. I just did not jive with their energy. I'm just like way practical. They're way too woo. Never really resonated with their energy or their oracle decks. But when Kyle appeared to me, I was kind of all in. I studied under him for 4 years, his first 4 years that he launched Angel Tribe, which is what it was called back then. And I took all his courses. I was one of his first 5 certified angel guide practitioners listed on his website. I was all in with him. But I gained all this knowledge, not just from Kyle's course, but from my personal experiences with angels. And I was really confused on what I was supposed to do with it, because how other people were doing angel readings, it didn't work like that for me. And it took me many years of being really consistent with their energy and having them continuously show up for me and continuously give me all these incredible miracles in my life that kept me interested on the angel development path. And it was just kind of fascinating, but I was very confused about what I was supposed to do with it all. And then just in the past, maybe 6 or 7 months, through my metamorphosis clients, in particular, like angels kept appearing and coming up and really offering these really deep, intense healings for many of them. Not everyone who has had one of these angel sessions under my metamorphosis brand or package had a profound experience, but many have. And it was actually one of my clients, Amber, who is an Akashic Record channeler. I've had her on the podcast before, and she's been a Metamorphosis client for a while. She's one of the original Initiation Circle members. She said something to me that really changed my perspective on my angel work. And she said, Danielle, you're a transmitter of light. And I was like, whoa. It was almost like I get covered in shivers just saying that again. And it really kind of resonated with me, because I was like, that's exactly it. I'm not a voice for the angels in a sense, like where other people do card readings and they pass along messages, which is how I actually teach other people and mentor other people. What the angels have shown me is that I am almost like an amplifier of their energy. And so when I sit with these people and they tell me that it's time to heal a belief system or something that's kind of lingering in their energy, I just guide them through something and I become like this amplifier of light for them, and this healing occurs. I'm not going to get too far into it. I have a few posts coming up on Instagram more deep into this journey. But then I started having people apply for Metamorphosis, my one-on-one mentorship program, a 4-month experience, wanting specifically angel connections. And so I know Spirit enough now to know that this is a sign that they want me to start doing this work. And so I had these clients come in under just, I want to learn angel studies under you. And I found that to be really fascinating. And again, you talk about alignment because I don't really advertise it. I don't talk about it very much on my Instagram. I definitely haven't talked about my podcast. So I definitely feel that these amazing women were kind of like brought to me for like these angel studies. And I was going through my old development journals 2 months ago, and I saw from 2018, there was 4 entries in my development journal for 2018. 3 of them were automatic writing, and one of them was me manifesting a dream week as a full-time entrepreneur, because obviously I've been thinking about going full-time for a while. And all 4 entries talked about this Angel Monday experience, like an angel circle on Mondays. In the 3 automatic writing ones, as well as the 1 schedule one. When I talk about my dream week, my ears are ringing right now as I talk about it. And I went to my coach and I said, this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And I just haven't, because I've been so confused about how the angels want to work through me. Like nothing comes supernatural. Nothing resonates as it does with mediumship with me. And, then this healing stuff started happening. I started mentoring other people under angel studies. And so my coach back in January was like, go for it. And so I was intending on doing my first angel circle in February, but then I got scared. And then I was going to do it in March. And then I got scared. And then this past few weeks, especially through my burnout experience, when the angels have come around so much and there's been so many synchronicities for me, I kind of declared to them saying, okay, it's time. The time is now. I'm going to start stepping into this work after 5 years of studying and getting signs and connecting with them intentionally and helping other people connect with them. And now is the time. So one of the beautiful things that came out of my burnout experience was this clarity on really wanting to fully step into the angel work. And I'm really excited about it. And so I'm going to post about this on Instagram coming up this week, but I'm starting a weekly experience called the Angel Hour. And the Angel Hour is 1 hour and 11 minutes. It's from 1:11 p.m. till 2:22 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, second Monday of every month, where the angels are just going to lead us through an experience. I do feel very much so far what they've inspired me about is maybe some angel stories, angel philosophy, angel teachings, and then the healing experience that they've kind of guided me through that I help other people with. And one of the questions I've had for them, trying to get some sort of evidence from them on, can I do this in a group? Like, will a group have as profound an experience as my one-on-one clients have? And I haven't gotten my answer, which is also an answer in itself, because I teach this and I always practice what I preach, is that it's a declaration. So I've declared to Spirit that I'm doing these angel circles once a month, the Angel Hour, and it's going to be just as profound for a group. And I just trust the world of Spirit so much that because I will it, and so it is. And I'm really excited for this. And by the time I launch this, I'll probably have a link below that you can register for the first Angel Hour if you're interested. And of course, there's replay for the people who can't attend live. And I'm really, really excited about it. So this was one of the incredible blessings of clarity around my burnout experiences. One, focusing on my health, and it's been a huge transformation for me. And I'm very excited because even my husband's on board with the changes that I've made and that he wants to incorporate as well. And kind of bring through this angel work that's finally going to unfold as part of my path. And I was really nervous to talk about angels on my Instagram because I'm a very practical person, and I'm also not super, super woo. And to me, everything's super, super woo when it comes to angels. It's almost like, I don't even know how to describe it, but like all the angel decks that are out there except for Kyle's are very corny. Is the only word I can say for it. And so I actually have an inspiration to do my own angel deck, and I've thrown it out to Spirit. Last night I was on Etsy trying to find an artist that I really resonated with their pictures, and I want to do an angel deck, a non-corny angel deck. So I'm really excited about everything that I have kind of coming up. And I am just kind of wanting to give you guys these updates. Again, I don't mean for this like episode to be about me or like this personal kind of journey or this personal like journaling experience. I just know that every time I share something personal about my life, there's so many people out there who are either experiencing the same thing or on the cusp of experiencing the same thing. So if you are someone who has been feeling incredibly busy, pulled in a million different directions, you don't have to wait until you get sick to make changes in your life that are more aligned with where you want to go. I do encourage you, kind of like where I put the SOS out to my parents saying, I need help. I am about to have a health crisis. I can feel it. And I was able to actually call in the support, and they were so gracious and they were so supportive of me because they see how hard I work. Like my mom is like, one of my assistants, and my parents see how hard I work in my spiritual practice, all for the love of it. I don't have to work this hard. I could easily, I have enough clients to just like do a couple readings a week and get by. And it's not even about the money. It's about just chasing dreams. There's nothing that excites me more than chasing my inspirations, my ideas. And so I work really, really hard. And so if you're on the cusp of burnout yourself, and we're coming out of a whole year of COVID here, a lot of us are feeling really the fuck burnt out, even just emotionally taxed. Right? We look back at the past year, everything that we've come through, we've been on a little bit of autopilot and we've been in a little bit of survival mode. And so a lot of us are probably going to be experiencing some pretty big burnout at this point of our lives. So reach out for help before it's too late. I know not everyone's lucky enough to have their parents live downstairs. I understand that. But even if it requires like a few counseling sessions to kind of like give yourself that space to kind of like talk things out with somebody who will just listen, like call upon that, slow down, let go of some of the commitments that you may have had that are just making you feel like you have one other thing in the calendar or one other thing kind of pulling at you energetically. Call upon Archangel Michael. This is what I had to do with my initiation program. I call in Archangel Michael to say thank you for severing my energetic ties to the Initiation 2021 winter program. Because though I love every single person that had that experience with me and shared that space with me, I cannot leave my energy in that container. I need to focus my energy on the initiation circle and my metamorphosis clients. And as far as readings go, I'm doing readings all the time. I don't talk about them very much because they're very sacred containers for me. And I don't really share a lot about my readings outside of the initiation circle. But I'm still doing readings all the time. And I will definitely be, reaching out to my wait list as soon as possible. And just trying to find the best way to continue to serve in that capacity, because I love mediumship. It's my greatest passion, in a way that also serves me and allows me to preserve my energy and be able to continue to serve for the rest of my life. Because I don't know a whole lot of people who, start off on the mediumship path who sustain the path. It's a busy path, and it's a lonely path, and it's a solo path in so many ways. That's something I'm hopefully trying to change through the initiation circle. This non-competitiveness, the fact that if one person succeeds and does well, it means that somebody else can't. It's like, why can't we all succeed and rise and thrive? That's one of the wounds I'm trying to really heal through the initiation circle. But I haven't experienced too much of that in my own containers, in my own life. And so I'm trying to create that for the next wave. But anyways, this is my update. This is the podcast episode. Hopefully it all resonates with you. I am feeling a lot better. I don't have migraines or headaches anymore. I feel so much more energy. I'm still going to take my 2 weeks off, and only really kind of show up for the initiation circle container. We have one class planned, and of course my spirit circles on Fridays. And so, yeah, I'm kind of like looking forward to spring. I'm looking forward. I'm really enjoying watching Grandmother Willow come back and seeing the buds come back and the greenery come back. I live in the forest, so of course there's a lot of brown right now. It's going to be turning to green over the next few months, and I just love this time of year. So I just kind of want to share this in hopes that if you're somebody who's experiencing what I was experiencing a few weeks ago, you'll just stop and pause and tend to your own spirit and tend to your own physical experience before it's too late. And look for some more exciting episodes to come. I got some interviews coming up, and I got some, like I say, over 50 mediumship topics I still want to talk about on this podcast. And there might be some more angel stuff kind of coming in. So yeah. Anyways, love you guys. Chat soon. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirit School. If you did, please leave me a review and a rating wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you do feel called to share this with your friends, thank you for tagging me on Instagram at Squamish Medium so I can also share. It really helps get the word out about the podcast. If you're interested in working with me in my one-on-one mentorship, a reading, or all the various programs that I run, you can go to squamishmedium.com or check me out on Instagram at Squamish Medium. The link in the bio has everything I am currently working on in service to the world of spirit. Have a great day, guys.